Yeah, so I drove to this masjid and I got there right when he said to get there at 10 p.m. So then they were praying Isha, so I prayed Isha there. And then after Isha, I was just, looking for where is Suhaib. Didn't see him. He must have combined his prayers. I didn't see him in the Jama'ah. And then this man comes to me and takes me aside. And he introduces himself as the part of the masjid board of that masjid, Maryam Masjid. And he says to me, first of all, I want to apologize. What was said about you the previous day, that was not appropriate. We want to apologize. And we actually sat with Suhaib Webb and we talked to him. We told him, like, this is not appropriate, but we can't have this here. Like, you can't have this discussion with him here in the masjid. So at this point, Suhaib shows up and he comes up and extends his hand. He says, Assalamu alaikum. So I said, Wa alaikum assalam. And I said, look, this masjid does not want us to have what you challenged me. You challenged me in front of the imams to have a discussion in front of people. So what's the deal? And my point against him was that this is like so unprofessional, number one. It's completely bad adab. Like, to your host, imagine, this is the analogy that I made. You invite someone to your house as a guest, and that person comes to your house, and while he's staying at your house, he starts beefing with random people and calling them out and saying, I challenge you. Come and face me if you're a man. Come to this person's house and face me if you're a man. We're going to talk about all your lies. Imagine if someone did that. You would think, dude, this is my house. Don't pick fights. Don't have beef in my house. You're just a guest. Yeah, this is just completely bad adab. It's very shocking for someone who claims to know so much about akhlaq to act in this behavior. And then he just, shrugged it off. Like, I'm ready to talk to you. I'll talk. We'll just have a brotherly discussion. You'll notice that switching. Like, when he was challenging me, he's all hood, like he's, talking like a gangster. But then after I accept the challenge, like, oh, I want a brotherly discussion, brother. Oh, what happened to the hood accent? What happened to the hood? I thought you're from the hood. I thought you're a gangsta. No, the gangsta left Imam Suhaib's body as soon as I said, send me location. Then he's no longer a gangster. He's just a concerned brother. We want to have a brotherly discussion. And he said, you heard him, I encourage people to follow her. Where is the lie? Where is the lie? Where is the lie? That's our rallying cry. Where is the lie, Suhaib Webb? You didn't understand the point. Like, that's the best kind of Husn Adhan I can give you. Like, you didn't understand the point, and somehow you worked it in your mind that I said that you promoted a lesbian as a lesbian, like, and you told people, follow this lesbian. Where did I say that? Like, you worked that out in your head somehow, but that's on you. That's not on me. I didn't lie. I just presented facts. I said, this is who you're promoting, and these are who the people are that you're promoting. And you're responsible for that. You're responsible for who you promote. Very responsible, because this has a huge impact. This is the cancer of the dawah mafia. They have no accountability. Look at how much they promoted someone like Linda Sarsour. Look at how much they promoted someone like Ilhan Omar. They take someone who has this popularity in the wider degenerate culture, and just because that person identifies as Muslim, then suddenly we have to bring that person and promote them in the masajid, promote them on the mimbar, praise them and say, oh, this is our shiro, this is our role model, like what ICNA did with Ilhan Omar at that disastrous conference that they had 2 years ago. They keep doing this. Why? Because it gives them relevance. It gives them popularity. People are going to come to your conference if you're promoting a popular politician or a popular figure in the mainstream. You're going to benefit from that financially and in other ways. This is selling out. You're selling out the deen because you're bringing a deviant and you're platforming a deviant for your own benefit, for your own pocket, for your own popularity. Shame on you. Shame on you, people. Allah will hold you to account for this. And you have not renounced them. You have not renounced any of them. I want to see these compassionate imams denounce and condemn these figures that they promoted for years. Politicians, activists. Sometimes they're still involved with them. You must denounce and condemn them by name. If you do not do it, we will continue to criticize you for it. You will still be held accountable for it in the eyes of the Muslim community. It's as easy as that.
Here's the tweet. I was mistaken.
I was mistaken.
Here's the tweet. I was mistaken.
I was mistaken. Let's replay it.
I was mistaken.
I was mistaken. Let's play it again.
Part of the tweet. Here's the tweet. I was mistaken. So I didn't lie about you. But I think you're. I didn't lie about you. If you had called me.
If you had called me, I could just butter you up and call you Azizam, and don't, I talked to you privately, so why bring it up? And I'll, delete the tweet from 6 years ago. No, that's not what's required. What's required is for you to publicly say I made a mistake. People are saying, "Oh, Daniel, why don't you contact these people privately? You need to talk to them privately. You have no adab." Newsflash, I have talked to them privately. Not Suhaib Webb in this particular instance, but other compassionate imams. Omar Sulaiman has been talked to privately. Yasser Qadi has been talked to privately about these specific issues, promoting these activists. I have talked to them privately, not just one conversation either. So what do? I'll tell you what is the gist of these conversations. Like, yeah, you're right, but there are other considerations, so we have to balance things out, and I'll try my best. Thanks for bringing it up. And then they continue to do exactly what they've been doing, let alone like stopping. Okay, maybe it would be something if they stopped doing it. They stopped promoting people like Linda Sarsour. They stopped signing on to these kind of statements like they did back in 2016, like the open statement on the Orlando shooting. Like maybe if that would be something, they just stopped and their behavior actually changed. Okay, I could say there was an effect, a positive effect of the private discussion. But that's not what happens. They not only, they continue their behavior and they don't rectify what the previous harm that they've done. Like this is an argument. Like let's steelman the compassionate imam argument. Like, okay, it's permissible to do inkar, to like condemn one of our mistakes publicly. Maybe they would admit that. Like Islamically speaking, you can criticize. This is part of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar. No one really disagrees with that other than deviants, like Medkhali, bootlickers, and these compassionate folk. But they could say that it's permissible, but it'll have more benefit. It'll have more impact if you actually approach them privately and talk privately. That'll actually have a better result. This is what people will try to claim. But my experience has shown the exact opposite. It doesn't have any benefit. It actually makes things worse because you're neutralized. When you talk to them privately, this is what they do. If you talk to them privately, their expectation is that you're not going to say anything publicly. Oh, and if you do, they'll say, Daniel, what the heck? We talked about this privately. I thought we were in agreement that these are nuanced, complex issues. Why are you going out and spreading this against me? This is a betrayal. I thought we were friends. This is their attitude. So if you like, their expectation is that I talked to you privately, therefore case closed. It's done. Issue resolved. Yeah, it's resolved for you because you don't have to do anything. You don't have any rectification to make. It's not case solved. It's not problem solved. So it actually makes it worse when you talk to them privately. Like you're actually, because then what they say when you come out publicly, and they have done this with me, is that they'll go in their private circles and say, yeah, I talked to Daniel privately and he agreed that issues were balanced, or we need balance and there's nuance in it. That's what he says privately, then, but publicly he goes and blasts me. So this shows that Daniel is two-faced and Daniel is only out for some drama and for likes on YouTube and some whatever clout. So they misrepresent the private conversation that we had. This is why I refuse to talk to these people privately. I refuse unless there is some recording or there is some neutral party that can testify to what actually took place. So this is the response to people saying, oh, just talk to them privately. Basically, this is the game. They know that when they go to a random person, like one of these ulema, one of these scholars, that scholar is not following like the details of the back and forth between me and these compassionate imams. They know that. They won't know all the details. So they can straw man me. They can misrepresent my actual claims. And the scholar is not going to have the background knowledge to know what they're saying is not completely accurate. It's just half-truths. But if I'm in the room, I'm going to expose that. So that is not allowed. We have to talk to you privately. Don't tell Daniel. Don't involve Daniel. That's their whole trick. Like this is dishonest. And it's also dishonest to not say my name publicly when you're talking all this smack privately. That's just a good tidbit for you guys. So I'm calling you out, Yasser Qadi. Be a man. How about you be a man? You defended Suhaib Webb. Suhaib Webb used this language too. So I'm going to use it since you approve of Suhaib Webb. Be a man. If you want to say something about my lies, say it publicly. At least Suhaib Webb, as deviant as his positions are and his views are, at least he was man enough to say something publicly. At least. And it reached me eventually. He actually agreed to face me. Why don't you do that? Omar Sulaiman, same thing. Why don't you agree? Don't stop this, campaign against me, this private campaign. They want to give the impression that, oh, Daniel is so aggressive. Daniel is attacking us nonstop. And we're just being quiet. We'll let Allah defend us. We'll let the Malaika defend us from this liar Daniel, who is just so aggressively attacking us. We will see on Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's the public image that they want to give of like being pacifistic and so innocent. And Daniel's this aggressive brute. He's just constantly banging on the doors and shouting and has all these videos, no adab. That's the image that they want to present. But in reality, they're behind closed doors in private, messaging frantically, contacting people, spreading all kinds of documentations. Like they literally have documents that they've created just for me, just about me, like refuting Daniel. And they're passing this to people. Okay? This is information from this Arab scholar who has millions of followers, as I mentioned, who shared the Bayan Claremont or Bayan graduate school video. So, yeah, this is deception, deception.
So you're promoting her to the Muslim community, but you admit that
in this, she says she's talented and very capable. I guess this is referring to all of these women.
She's not a model at that time.
She's a Muslim. Who's a model?
Who's
a model? What do you mean? What does a model mean? You mean she has isma or she has mistakes like everyone else?
So you can promote anyone. Everyone has mistakes, so you can promote anyone. Like this is his argument. Of course, she's not sinless. She's not masoom. So you can promote her as long as no one's masoom. So how can you blame me for promoting someone? No one's masoom. You're not masoom. I'm not masoom. So you can promote the leader of this lesbian organization. No one's masoom.
We established that I did not lie about.
You did lie about.
What was the lie?
Still insists. You did lie. You did lie about it. SubhanAllah. Like even when you show them the evidence and the proof, they will not accept. This is like so clear and obvious. So how are you supposed to like deal with people like this? How are you supposed to talk to people like this? They won't admit their mistake.
Because I didn't know those things.
I didn't know those things. So you can't hold me accountable for the things that I don't know, even though it's right there in black and white. I'm tweeting it. You did know that she was not a model Muslima. You did know that. When you promoted her, just a few months later, she identifies as queer. So how does that happen? It didn't mean she was like, what can I say? This model Muslima in the sense of she's praying, she has actual proper hijab, not like this turban hijab. She actually has this kind of qualities, Islamic qualities that are praiseworthy, and that's the reason that you promoted her. No, you're basically acknowledging she didn't have any of those qualities, or at least you couldn't name one, and yet you feel justified to promote her. So what did you not know? You knew the kind of person that she was at that time.
You said, I recommend everyone listen to this album, get the uncensored version.
Drake or Lupe? You're confused now, Daniel. We're talking about Drake, and this is a lie. You just got exposed.
This is a lie. You didn't say, I didn't say get the uncensored version of Drake. I said get the uncensored version of Lupe, you liar. Lying scandal monger, smear merchant. I said Lupe, not Drake. So, this was his big gotcha. But I got exposed. Daniel exposed. Because Daniel was confused for a second about who's Lupe and who's Drake. Sorry, bro. I'm not, an aficionado of rap music. I don't know who's who when it comes to these rap musicians. Thanks for clarifying. Like, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. And there's no, that's fine as long as you're accountable for those mistakes. That's the point. You have to be accountable. Dawah Mafia doesn't want to be accountable. That's point number one. Point number two is their mistakes aren't haphazard mistakes. Like if I make a mistake, it's because I misspoke something or because I, didn't properly vet the source. So I made a mistake. I correct the mistake. That's a haphazard mistake. Their mistakes are because of their usul, their principles, this liberal Islam, this American Islam, this Rand Islam. That's what their mistakes come from. Their mistakes come from this attempt to liberalize. Promoting Playboy is not like I slipped and made a mistake. Like, oh, I promoted Playboy, but you're not perfect either, so it's okay. Like, that's not just a small mistake, and it's a mistake that's part of a larger problem, a deeper problem. And this is the point that was made against Omar Suleiman, just as a preview of what we're going to talk about next week, or when I release that video on his quote unquote apology. You know, it's not, the problem is your usul, like your principles, your liberal principles. That is the problem. That's why you can end up doing a pagan ritual. A normal Muslim is not going to fall into doing a pagan ritual. You know, a normal imam, let's say, a normal imam who has studied the deen to any level is not going to fall for doing a pagan ritual. The reason that Omar Suleiman can fall into doing a pagan ritual, not once, but multiple times, at least twice on video, is because of his principles, like his liberal principles and his associations. That's what gets him into that trouble. Suhaib Webb gets into trouble of promoting like Playboy because he's in those circles of those liberal Muslims, and he has this no judgment attitude for liberalism. So he's gonna slip and make these mistakes. They're huge mistakes, and they're indicative, or they're symptomatic of his underlying problematic core principles, liberalized Islam. That's what I want you guys to really understand. What this is a deeper problem. It's not just, oh, I slipped and I made a mistake. If that were the case, why would I even bother? Like, why would I care? People are making mistakes every day. People are making mistakes every day. So I'm here to police everyone's mistakes? No. I'm focusing on these mistakes that are symptomatic of a deeper problem and a deeper cancer. That's the thing. That's the thing. And we'll talk about with Omar Suleiman and LGBT. You know, oh, finally he says the right thing on these two issues. Finally he says the right thing. That means, oh, Omar Suleiman, wonderful. Let's like have a celebration. He's back on the manhaj. He's back into orthodoxy. So when I have that video, inshallah, I'm going to say, yeah, you know, I appreciate that Omar Suleiman finally, after 6 years of constant pressure, he, you know, has the correct sentence. He finally says it. He finally says the correct thing on those two issues. Okay. But the problem with Omar Suleiman is not that he was like just on LGBT allyship and his promotion of these LGBT activists. Like, that's not the only problem. That's a symptom of the bigger problem. That's a symptom of his bigger problem. And he hasn't changed direction on that. He's still promoting that. He's still promoting feminism. He's still promoting these kinds of, you know, problematic stances. So that's a preview of what's to come, inshallah. And then the other distinction, like private sins versus public actions. I made this distinction already. Like if I saw, imagine, I see Suhaib Webb. This is important. I see Suhaib Webb go into a Lupe Fiasco concert. Like I just happened to, on the street, I see him walking into the venue. Should I blast him? Should I go and try to take a picture and say, oh, I saw him. I saw him going to this concert. Cancel Suhaib Webb. Is that appropriate? No, it's not appropriate. That's not appropriate, because I should talk to him. I should figure out what happened. Like maybe it was a moment of weakness. Like maybe he slipped up. Maybe something happened. There could be many reasons, and it doesn't merit. Like, that's none of my business to go and say, Suhaib Webb is going to this concert. That's his private life. And we're not supposed to spy on other Muslims. This is something completely contrary to Islam. You can't do tajassus. You can't be this spy that spies on other Muslims and reports, oh, he went to this concert. Oh, he's doing this and that in his private life. This is completely wrong. The distinction is when you're publicly promoting it. So he went to the concert and he's posting the pictures and he's saying it's great and he's praising the rapper. That's the problem. Do you guys understand now? Are you getting it? You have to have these kinds of distinctions. Like, we're not the spies that are trying to spy on these compassionate imams and dig out their personal life. That's what they do. That's what they do, or they try to do. Against me, for example, they say, oh, Daniel doesn't actually go to any mosque. Daniel doesn't actually go to any mosque. Did you know that? Which is false. It's a complete lie and slander. But still, it's like a personal nature. Like, are you spying on me? Are you spying? Oh, Daniel's wife is like this. Daniel's kids are like this. So you're spying on us. This is spying. That's not the same thing as if I'm publicly promoting it. I'm publicly promoting something. This is a big, important distinction. And you need to understand it. Like, this is what Islam is advocating. That's like the wisdom and the balance of Islam. So any masjid that I go and talk to, there are like petitions that go out. So this was a petition, Muhammadi Masjid. I believe this is a New York one. This is a petition on change.org. It got 128 signatures. Cancel him. Cancel Daniel's talk. He's an extremist. So I have like criticisms of Anthony Fauci, and I want him to be tried in court for capital crimes and for him to face capital punishment. And they're saying, oh, Daniel is calling for killing public health officials. Like this is the level of their response to Daniel, to me. I promote extremists. So yeah, these are all just slander, pure slander. I was banned on Twitter. I have common ground with Nazis. These are the talking points from Jafed in that debate the other day. But the point is that I debated white nationalists and I refuted their racism, their white nationalism. That makes me a white nationalist. If you're not like a critical race theory, that means you're a white nationalist. Like that's their standard. Daniel has created divisions within the Muslim community through un-Islamic debate tactics, such as lying, slandering, mockery, and name-calling against fellow Muslims and scholars. Cope and seethe. That's my response to that. Some of the scholars, so this is in direct contradiction to the Quran and Sunnah. Oh, really? Let's put your understanding of the Quran and Sunnah against my understanding and the understanding of my shuyukh and my teachers. Let's see who knows more about the Quran and Sunnah. Some of the scholars he has maligned include Mufti Wasim Khan, Imam Zaid Shakir, and Mufti Abdullah Nana. It's very interesting that these are the three names at the top of the list. Very interesting. Mufti Menk, Hamza Wald Maqbool. You know that clown, right? Sheikh Holes in the Narrative. Azhar Subadar, like this guy who said that Jesus alayhi salam is not a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew. He literally said that Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, is not a Muslim. So we should not mock like someone like this. Sheikha, Dr. Tamara Gray. Like this is the list of shame, really. Rami Nasur, like this clown. Omar Suleiman, Joe Bradford, Ustad, Sajid Lipum. Yeah, all of these guys, subhanAllah. Like Aisha Prime, this woman who, promotes Nation of Islam, and she like praises the honorable Elijah Muhammad, that kafir Dajjal. She praises him and works like alongside the Nation of Islam. We need an expose on Aisha Prime because the compassionate imams love to invite her to places. Oh, Imam Suhaib is at the bottom of the list. I guess he wasn't prominent enough at that time to be at the top. So yeah, Rania Awad, like Rami Nasur's wife, Rania Awad, who goes to masajid and says that Muslims have double the, can we use this word on YouTube? I don't know. Muslims have double the suicide rate of every other demographic. And then this was completely debunked, and it showed that she actually, like, her paper manipulates data to give this false conclusion. Like, she's completely outed as a fraud, and we can't criticize that, apparently. Hamza Yusuf. Oh, Hamza Yusuf is back on the list, of someone that we should respect when he's not going to the UAE and rubbing elbows with who. So, yeah, these are people who are ideologically opposed, like, in terms of their beliefs, but they can all come together. They can all come together as this compassionate imam dawah mafia to oppose Daniel. So would any of them say, oh, I don't want to be on this petition against Daniel to get Daniel uninvited from the masjid? Would any of them say that? I wonder. Don't they believe in free speech? So this is what I have to deal with. This is the kind of situation. And then some of these people, like, I get this kind of campaign, like literally a petition to get me canceled from a masjid to speak. And then these same people have the audacity to say, oh, Daniel has no presence in our masajid. Daniel has no presence in our masajid. He's an unknown. He doesn't give khutbah. He doesn't have any durus or halaqat or anything in our masajid. He's an unknown. He's just a keyboard warrior in his mom's basement. SubhanAllah. So they're actively involved with preventing me from the masajid, and then they turn around and use that and say, he has no connection to the masajid. Look at the kind of plot. They're plotting like this. Are you outraged by this? Some of you might have known this already because I've talked about it multiple times. But for those of you who are new to the channel or you haven't heard of those previous streams that I've done. Like, this is what I have to deal with.
And that is, for example, the issue of the Playboy interview, which happened, I believe, in 2017, 2015. I believe Playboy stopped issuing nudes at that time.
See, this is way between 2015 and 2017, they started. Playboy was just a news magazine. Basically, it's like the Wall Street Journal. Playboy became like National Geographic and The Atlantic.
Interview, which happened, I believe, in 2017, 2015. I believe Playboy stopped issuing nudes at that time. That the interview took place. That was one of the reasons that I didn't have an issue with it. They were not publishing nude photos. The individual was not on the cover of the magazine. This is a failure by the brother in his research that we'll talk about hopefully a little later.
Wait, did I claim that she was on the cover? Like, did I claim that she was on the cover of the magazine? How is that relevant? How is it relevant if she was on the cover or she was like on page 52? Like, what is he thinking? What is this guy thinking? So the Playboy magazine in 2015 became like the Wall Street Journal. It's just pure news.
Some brothers that I haven't talked to in a while contacted me and shared with me their concerns just yesterday from an ilmi perspective.
Oh,
and my arguments, of course, not
from an ilmi perspective. So I can respect it. You're going to talk to me from an ilmi perspective, not like these juhal that don't have ilm and they don't understand the nuances of being in Playboy. Like, nothing wrong with the Playboy magazine. 2015, I mean, when it's like the Wall Street Journal.
Not comparing her to Malcolm, but noting how Malcolm is a precedent. I believe there have been other religious leaders across Sunni Shia perspectives that appeared in magazines that are questionable.
So there are figures that appear in magazines that are questionable, so there's no problem with this woman being in Playboy. Malcolm X did it. Malcolm X. And a lot of people pointed out that Malcolm X, when he was interviewed by Playboy, was in the Nation of Islam, number one. So he wasn't even a Muslim at that point. And number two, Malcolm X is not hujjah. Like, this is not a dalil. That doesn't make it permissible. Like, this is like these are the scholars that are so knowledgeable. Oh, we can't even understand the level of their ilm. Ooh, like people like Yasir Qadi. Oh, the level of ijtihad is, we cannot even imagine the level of knowledge that they possess within those minds that have poured over the books, the Turath, for years and years. We cannot even comprehend a small drop of their knowledge. But when push comes to shove and they have to justify this trash, what is the ijtihad? Oh, Malcolm did it. Malcolm X did it. He did it. So how can you complain? So this is their ijtihad, like the level of not. Oh, they're constantly like gatekeeping. Obviously, you don't have the level of knowledge to be criticizing the Ulema. You don't have the so they're gatekeeping, number one, and they're constantly virtue signaling, like, I have so much knowledge. We are the inheritors of the Prophet. Like, it's constantly like they're just boosting each other and talking about how amazing each other. Yasir Qadi promotes Suhaib Webb and says, "Oh, what an amazing scholar." Suhaib Webb promotes Yasir Qadi. I mean, not always, because he was criticizing him in the masjid and saying holes in the narrative. Muslims who say holes in the narrative, and he blasted him. So I guess it's very selective. But they're constantly talking each other up, like, oh, there's amazing scholarship. Like, this is the circle of influence. This is the dawah mafia. This is exactly how it works. So they just, it creates inflation. You guys know what inflation is, right? Like, there's a bubble that's been created. This is like the dawah bubble, the dawah mafia bubble. They've praised themselves so much and created so much fake or false value. Like, the stock is overvalued. The dawah mafia stock is so inflated and overvalued, and it's created this massive bubble. And now the bubble is popping because people are like, what? He's promoting Playboy. He's like retweeting Playboy links. He's like involved in like pagan rituals, or, you know, Jonathan Brown, like his stock took a nosedive. Like, he's saying that the best regime of human happiness is to have, you know, speech allowing insults of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, I believe in the right to insult the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, I thought he was this great, amazing scholar. Like, Yasir Qadi is bringing him on to teach hadith at his seminary. And, you know, he's on the Yaqeen board, like the editorial board of Yaqeen Institute. And there's a director. And I thought he was like, He's sitting next to Abdullah bin Bayya, the sheikh, you know, the UAE stooge, and he's, you know, sitting next to the great sheikh. Jonathan Brown must be so amazing. So the stock has been inflated through this unethical, like it's unethical to like falsely inflate stock, and now it crashes. Like the stock is crashing, it's crashing and burning. The whole bubble has popped. You know, that's why I'm saying that. You know, but the thing is, I should always emphasize, and people remind me to emphasize this, is that it's a dawah mafia. It's a small group. So if you remember in the confrontation video, he says Daniel made his fame by attacking the ulema. This is false. I don't attack all ulema. It's a very specific group. It's a very specific group of people who have all kinds of institutional affiliation. Some of them have government ties. Some of them are literally being promoted by Rand. Some of them are, you know, it's a very clearly defined group, you know, and it's a very consistent critique. It's a very consistent critique. If you look at all the criticism that I give when it comes to feminism, LGBT, interfaith, secular tolerance, reformism, madkhaliism, being a bootlicker, like it's all related. It's all related to changing and distorting Islam. That's what Muslim Skeptic is all about. Like that's what our dawah is all about. And that's what our mission is all about. So that's very, it's not just, oh, every alim, like, oh, ulama are just, no, do you know how many upright, pious ulama they are? They have nothing to do with these trashy people. And they condemn them actually. Like you might not know about it because you're not following them. That's your fault. That's your problem. Like, oh, Daniel criticized Suhaib Webb and Omar Suleiman. That means Daniel hates Islamic leadership and he hates our scholars. Like, no, you just revealed yourself. You exposed yourself that you only know like 2 people from YouTube. And that's all you understand of scholarship and ulama. And so if those 2 people are criticized, that means Daniel is criticizing, or Muslim Skeptic is criticizing all scholars or all leadership. Stop with the clowning. Like, be smart. In Islam, it's so important to trust people, give them the benefit of the doubt, and not being a skeptic. And here we got the Muslim skeptic. Sad man. No, false. You don't understand what Husn al-Dhan is. The benefit of the doubt is in the example that I gave you. If someone is privately doing something, then we don't spy on them and advertise their sins without, you know, trying to rectify the situation. In general, like that's the general rule. There are exceptions. But if someone is publicly promoting something, then actually, guess what? I have Husn al-Dhan of Suhaib Webb and all these compassionate imams. I have Husn al-Dhan. You know what my Husn al-Dhan is? My Husn al-Dhan is that they can change. That's my Husn al-Dhan. They can change and they can actually rectify the mistakes. They can rectify the problems, and they can become, you know, amazing scholars and du'at and awliya. That's within the realm of possibility. That's my Husn al-Dhan. But I have that Husn al-Dhan while also doing what is required, which is inkar of the munkar, which is doing amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, in line with the Quran and Sunnah. This is very clear. And there are shurut, or conditions and best practices, you could say, of doing inkar and doing amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar. Number one, like you have to have knowledge of the thing that you are doing inkar of. That doesn't mean you have to be a scholar, but we all know in Islam pornography is haram. We all know that hijab is required. We all know about modesty. We all know about these things, like LGBT is haram. We know these things. So since we know them, we can actually do inkar of the munkar regarding those issues. You don't have to be a scholar, but you have the knowledge of it. So that's one kind of condition. A second kind of condition is that you have to weigh the pros and the cons. In certain situations, sometimes doing inkar might actually cause more harm than benefit. So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. That's if you suspect that, like imagine your dad is involved with selling alcohol. Imagine. And it's actually going to make the situation worse because of your dad's personality to say, hey, dad, this is haram. Then don't do that. Find a different way. Like, find a different way to approach your dad and say that, well, dad, I really love you. I think you're amazing. is this really necessary? Or why don't we try selling something else other than alcohol, or like a different way? Because if you just give it straight to your dad, he's going to blow up and he's going to become more obstinate, because it's hard for a dad to hear from his son or his daughter. So you have to be wise enough, have the hikmah to know in that situation. Same when it comes into public discourse, like public dialogue. Like there's some munkar that it's better not to maybe address it publicly on social media. It's possible, but you have to do that calculation and make a decision. When it comes to the compassionate imams, their evil has spread so much and has caused so much corruption that it needs to be publicly denounced. So even on that basis, if you wanted to weigh the mafasid and the masalih, you do that calculation, the benefits and the harms, and you see that, the benefits outweigh the harms. And we need to have the public denunciation, as we've been doing. And alhamdulillah, it has positive effects. It has had positive effects, and the proof of it we'll talk about in the video, inshallah, on Omar Suleiman.
I will not apologize, though, for being in a place where I believe we have a responsibility, me as someone who was guided to Islam and understands how beautiful Islam is, to spread Islam. Hassan al-Banna went into shisha houses to spread Islam. The Prophet made a tawaf around the Kaaba that was surrounded by idols, and his companions were there, and there was nudity happening. But I believe we have to spread the haqq. And I've given shahadas to people in trap houses, 4 brothers, 4 bloods, one night. I've pulled a Muslim out of a pub. I'll go to AE meetings with Muslims. I believe that I have a responsibility to help, not because I'm great, but to help people see the beauty of Islam, not through me, but through that experience of learning and growing and sharing together and being there for people. I'm not going to apologize for that. And if people have some issues with that, that's something we can discuss. But
look at that. So he's not going to apologize for going to the concert. He's not going to apologize for, tweeting all of that nonsense. He's not going to apologize for saying Lupe is my sheikh. He's not going to apologize for telling people to buy the uncensored album. He's not going to apologize for any of that. They don't understand. I'm just trying to serve people. I'm trying to be there. I'm an imam of the people. I want to serve everyone. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ did, because he made tawaf, and there's idols in the Kaaba when he's making tawaf. So this is somehow equivalent to going to a Lupe concert. Like, this is the most disgusting type of qiyas. Like, that's not applicable. Like, the haram is the haram. It is the holiest place, whether there are idols there or not. That's not equivalent to going to some random concert. And even if you want to go to do dawah, like in a strip club or the bar, or the shisha house, you have to praise it. You have to promote it in this way that you did and you do, and you're not apologizing for. This is nonsense. He is using Islamic terminology, and if you don't think about it, like a lot of his simp fans don't think about it, you'll say, the scholar, mashallah, is citing hadith. Amazing point. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is doing tawaf, and there's idols, and there are people who are not dressed. They're doing tawaf naked. Then that means we can go to the strip club. Oh, okay. As long as we're doing dawah. What an amazing qiyas. What an amazing, the depth of knowledge from this scholar. This is why we follow Suhaib Webb and not the imam with an accent. The imam with an accent who can't speak English fluently. He's from overseas. He doesn't know about Lupe, and he doesn't know about concerts. So we need to follow relevant imams like Suhaib. In-source, don't outsource Islamic knowledge, as Yasser Qadi famously put it. Only follow the local. Homegrown imams, not this foreign imam. He has an accent. He might be from Bangladesh. He might be from Egypt. He speaks with an accent. The Pakistani imam, we don't have time for this. We're American. We need an American imam. Yeah, homegrown, no accent. Really understands the relevant context that we're in, the culture, and who can tell me about Lupe. And if I'm gay, he won't just judge me. He won't judge me if I'm gay. He'll actually counsel me. That's what we need, not these judgmental Pakistani, Bangladeshi imams. I mean, come on. We don't need that. We need relevant scholarship like Imam Suhaib. He can cite Mary J. Blige and rap lyrics. Can your Pakistani imam do that? No. Because when you say American Islam, you are basically, the assumption that's made, or what's built into the concept, is the nation state model. It's American Islam. and there's Egyptian Islam and Turkish Islam and Bosnian Islam and UK Islam and French Islam, German Islam. You're basically isolating the different Muslim communities, and you're saying, okay, this is for this country, as opposed to what Muslims have always wanted is one Islamic ummah, one nation, one Islamic nation under the Khilafah that truly applies Sharia law. We're supposed to just accept this colonial, post-colonial reality that has been imposed on us for the past 70 years, that we're all separate nations, and you all have your own religions. This is a divide and conquer strategy. So that was point number one. Like, they're taking away the concept of Khilafah and pan-Islamic unity across the ummah, that we come together, because that's how, this is like the biggest nightmare. This is the biggest nightmare of the secularists and the liberal hegemony dominating the world. The biggest nightmare that they have is that the Muslims unite across the world. 2 billion Muslims come together. This is their biggest nightmare, because then we'll have all this political power. We have to be divided and conquered. And this is from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who told us very clearly that you're going to be weak when it comes, towards the akhir zaman, towards the end of times. You're going to be weak. And the Sahaba asked, is it because we're going to be weak in number? No, you're going to be vast. You have great numbers, but you're going to be weak. You're going to be like the foam on the sea, or the foam, like the scum from storm water, like weak. You're just going to be taken by the tide, taken by the water, whichever way that goes. And then the nations are all going to come to you and feast on you as if they're coming to a plate, like to a dish. So that's our reality. It's like we've been divided. We're not small in number. We're not small in number. But this is the situation that has been created. Love of dunya. And this is the crux of the problem that the Prophet ﷺ gave. He said, you're going to suffer from al-wahn. Wahn. What's wahn? It is the love of dunya, hubb ad-dunya, and the dislike or the hatred of death. You're just attached to the dunya. The heart is attached to the dunya. You're not willing, to go against the grain, to go against the tide. If you don't want to be scum on the sea, if you don't want to be the scum on top of water, you have to prove that by going against the water, going against the tide, standing firm, having istiqamah. That is how you prove that you're not scum on the sea. There are consequences to that, though. It's scary. That's where iman comes in. That's where tawakkul comes in, having tawakkul on Allah. That when you stand for the haqq, you stand for the truth, you stand for your deen, you don't compromise on things that cannot be compromised, then Allah is going to support you. And if things come to death, then so be it. That's part of Islam, because we know there's an akhirah. If standing up for the truth, these secularists and these liberals believe in, you can die for your country. They say that you can die for your country, or you can die for a liberal cause. Like if you are going to march for Qawm Lut rights, and a bigot does something to you, then you've died for a righteous cause and you're a hero. But if you die for Islam and you die for this deen, then that's nothing. Like, that's actually blameworthy. Yeah, you can die for every other cause, but not for Islam. And just so they don't clips this, I'm talking about legitimate means, not terrorism. Legitimate means for standing up for the truth. And you have all of these oppressive powers who want to wipe you out, want to snuff you out, and they've been doing it. So if that happens, then inshallah we're among the shuhada and the salihin. So may Allah give us that tawfiq.
To say that there was an article written, I think The Elephant in the Room, a gay Muslim wrote it from our website, talking about what it was like to be a gay Muslim. I have no problem with someone who openly struggles with something that they are dealing with in their life.
But let's look at this article. This is from 2013. So the people who are currently with the website, why is this article still up? Why aren't you taking it down? I mean, don't worry, we have it saved, so you can't deny that it was ever up on your site. But still, why is it still on the site? Gay Muslims, the elephants in the prayer room. And then they have to make this disclaimer. This is a controversial issue with varying perspectives. Our guest author is expressing one perspective. We encourage others to respectfully discuss their own perspective in the comments or submit your thoughts as a guest piece. This article is meant to open up a discussion on this issue rather than be a definitive stance on homosexuality. We just want to open up the discussion. Anything that is they're pushing like some kind of liberalism or deviance, they just say, oh, no, we just want to open up the discussion. That's all. This creates plausible deniability. That you can't say that you're promoting this fisq and this fahisha. Oh, no, we're just having a discussion. Okay, well, let's have a discussion about, compassionate imams. No, you have bad adab. Let's have a discussion about like imams that are promoting pornography. No, we get out of the masjid. We're going to call the police. Get out of the parking lot. Get away. What? I thought you wanted some discussion. You want open discussion, right? About these topics. No. Not in the masjid. We don't want drama in the masjid. But if it's about, a liberal issue, then a liberal issue that's challenging Islam or rejecting Islam, then now we want to have a discussion on our virtual mosque. That's the name of the site, a virtual mosque. This is a masjid, and you're having an open discussion about this topic. Then they say, first of all, they said, give your alternative perspective, like as if this issue about Islam and homosexuality is just perspectival. There are different perspectives. We just want to hear all the perspectives. And they say, submit your own perspective. Here's one perspective. Submit your own perspective in the comment section. And then here, comments have been closed. We encourage positive and fruitful discussions, which we feel has already taken place in the comments. So they close the comments. So Muslims, I find, so this is the author, Muslims, I find, tend to be good at avoiding open discussions about deeply personal matters affecting our community. The problem is it's exactly this attitude that leads to the circulation of myths and subsequent worsening of the original matter. Muslim communities tend to treat such deeply personal matters as elephants in the room. One such elephant in the room is, of course, that someone who is gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender can also be a devout Muslim. Okay, that's the elephant in the room. This is what he's going to debunk. You can be all of these things and still be a devout Muslim. I'm a student at a British university. I have not come out as homosexual, and I happen to be quite active in the Islamic Society on campus. When I'm in the company of other students, I do hear a few gay jokes being made. Although this is a wider societal problem too. In relation to these so-called jokes, do you think I enjoy that these jokes are essentially about someone like me? To those who make these jokes, given that no one has their sexual orientation stamped on their forehead, you've probably already prayed alongside a homosexual without realizing. Let me ask you, was there anything lesser about these people? To those who have a conservative attitude towards homosexuals, your conservative attitude, notice the wording, given the homophobic rhetoric, attacks, and social exclusion that a homosexual often has to put up with, do you genuinely believe that someone like me would have actively chosen to be gay rather than straight? The number of times I've previously wished that I wasn't homosexual, but that's the whole point. You cannot choose to be homosexual, or to put it another way, how many of you actively chose to have feelings for the opposite sex rather than the same sex? So it's the same thing, basically. You don't choose. You're just born that way. Some people are born straight. Some people are born gay. Homosexuality isn't a choice. Muslim communities should stop sweeping the topic under the carpet and start providing the right kind of support and advice. For starters, does your local mosque provide a confidential online or drop-in advice service? Not a service run by a traditional-minded scholar who can barely speak English, but by someone who is fully aware of the contemporary environment, is a good communicator, and someone young people can relate to. Oh, you mean like someone like Suhaib Webb? Does the Islamic Society at your university only ever discuss topics such as perfecting your prayers and how you can do charity? Or does it openly acknowledge that university is a time when you may have a whole range of personal issues and therefore advertises suitable welfare services? Do our community leaders shun discussion of very personal problems, or do they lead the way in acknowledging that personal problems do exist and create initiatives to tackle these problems in an effective and Islamic way? Ask yourself each of those questions, and you will see that as a community, we need to be doing far more to support the homosexuals among us. Fortunately, I met an extremely knowledgeable Muslim who had given a few talks at my university. I got to know this person, their open-minded nature, and knew I could approach them to discuss my homosexuality. The day we met up, I told them it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt like I no longer had to struggle on my own, but could talk to somebody if I needed to. I then told a couple of my closest friends at university who I also knew I could trust. One of them afterwards gave me a hug, and that meant the world, knowing that this person wasn't going to treat me any differently. I'm now at a stage where being homosexual no longer bothers me as it once did, and I can now focus on the more important things in my life. I have the odd struggle, but I guess sexuality just isn't a straightforward thing, you know? Having been through all the mental anguish, though, I do feel for those who are on their own right now, unable to turn anyone for advice and support. If you're a Muslim struggling with your sexuality, I'm not going to offer you some generic advice, as some scholars might, and then avoid your actual concerns altogether. I really wish I could point you in the right direction, but that's part of the point of this article, that the Muslim community needs to do more to support those of us who are homosexual and Muslim. I will say, though, that you're definitely not alone. There is an Islamic viewpoint that says the having of same-sex feelings is itself no sin. And contrary to how others may make you feel, you're no less of a human being or a good Muslim. I wish you all the best, and I really hope you find the support that you need. So again, let's go to see the authors and the people who run this site on the virtual masjid, the virtual mosque. It's good for you guys to know these names. Like these are the people who are in the Dawah Mafia. They're like the B squad of Dawah Mafia. So the site is dedicated to enhancing the spiritual and religious development of Muslims through sound, balanced, and moderate Islamic teachings. Whenever you see moderate Islam, that's like a Fed code word. It means liberal Islam. It seeks to bridge orthodox and contemporary Islamic knowledge, bringing to light issues of cultural, social, and political relevance to Muslims in the West. Oh, sorry. You can't see this. There. Yeah, Muslims in the West. Here are the contributors whose valuable work make all of this possible. May Allah reward them. So you have like Jamal Dewan from California, Shazia Ahmed, feminist, John Eder, like a complete zindiq. Lubna, I think, is the Yaqeen board member. I believe she is. Yeah, she is. That's Yaqeen. Muslima Permal, she's a sheikha, Shafiur Rahman, Shibli, right here. Simply Zaman is there. And here are the previous authors. People like Yasmin Mugahed, Dalia Mugahed's sister, Mustafa Omar, Osman Omarji from Yaqeen. He's currently at Yaqeen. Suhaib Webb. These are the people involved. So what do you have to say about what's being published on your site?
And that's why the imam, assistant imam, invited you to come to his home, invited me to come. He told me he invited you. That's what.
When? He didn't invite me to his home, so he just told you that. He never invited me to his home.
Imam invited you to come to his home, invited me to come. He told me he invited you. That's what I know. You can let us know if that's true or not. And invited me to come and meet you at his home, and I agreed. I was told that you didn't want to.
Yeah, lie. This is a lie. He did not invite me to his home. You saw what he did. He's on camera. You saw what he did. He didn't invite me to his home. So there's a problem with this imam. But that's not the situation here. These are people who doubled down on their deviance. They doubled down on this garbage. And they attack me and they call me a liar. Is calling someone a liar worse, or calling someone like Sheikh holes in the narrative? Or Imam Sandwich, for example? Or, Sheikh X that I called him in Sajid. Like, which one is, or calling someone a liar and saying they're unfit, they're unaccomplished intellectually and Islamically, and which one is that? That's not calling people names, Is that not calling people names? What is the standard here? Because it's just double standards. It's all double standards. And then also like Yasser Qadi, he's saying troublemaker. He uses all these terms for me, like troublemaker, neo-Khariji, barking dog. Like, and it's clear who he's referring to. That's not calling people names. That's something that is. See, it's like one rule for you, one rule for me, one rule for these compassionate imams. And by the way, I didn't have time to actually do the full research. That's why I'm saying maybe we need another stream. We're approaching 6 hours, subhanAllah, where hyena. They've called me hyena. They've called me and my followers cockroaches and jerks. And they use all of this kind of language. So one rule for them, one rule for me. But then also Suhaib Webb, he has a long history of belittling ulama from overseas, belittling ulama with accents who speak with an accent. Like, he has a long record of this. So is that like appropriate? Now, you know, you're getting your comeuppance. Now you're the object of ridicule, rightly so. You ridiculed so many imams and scholars because of their accent, or they weren't like with American culture, and you went on the minbar and you're constantly preaching against them, that they're not relevant, they don't understand our context. That's why we need American Islam, you know, where you promote Playboy and you promote Lupe Fiasco as your sheikh and you take selfies with Drake. They're not doing that. So you have belittled them. That's what your entire history was based on, was built on. And that was the other irony that I forgot to mention. You said I built my dawah on attacking other ulama. Your entire dawah was attacking ulama. Your entire dawah was literally about attacking other ulama, that they're not relevant. That's part of your whole act of like using this kind of black ghetto type of language, you know, gangster type of language, rap music type of language. Like, that's why you do it, because you think that that's how you can actually, that's how you're supposed to be as an imam. Let's play the clips that are relevant to that. I think we all need to hear these clips.
Because I told a lot of you what's happening here. Because I told a lot of you from Masjid Farouk, Sheikh Fakir's Masjid, we shouldn't call them companions. What should we call them? Can't hear you, man. Homeboys. Oh, the home.
He was waiting for the audience to respond, and like they're too embarrassed or too scared to say something so stupid and disrespectful. Like, don't call them Sahaba, don't call them companions, call them homeboys.
Homeboys of the Prophet.
Homeboys of the Prophet.
Not his companions.
Not
his
his
like
companions.
Star Trek. Mr. Sulu was the companion of Captain Kirk. So if the Klingons would show up, Mr. Sulu was like, I'm going to be down in the day.
His dawah is built on this. Like, so people are laughing it up in the audience, and they think, okay, if you call them Sahaba, you call them companions, as opposed to the homeboys of the Prophet ﷺ, you know, you're speaking in a way that's out of touch.
Hey, this is Suhaib. I'm here in the studios of AJ Plus.
He's with it. Snapchat Imam.
This is the
delivers
language of today.
fatwa.
You know, the Prophet Muhammad was given the Quran because poetry was kind of what was popping in the Arabian hood. So
the Prophet ﷺ was given Quran because that was what was popping in the Arabian hood. Is he insane?
this is the language of today. You know, the Prophet Muhammad was given the Quran because poetry was kind of what was popping in the Arabian hood. So
it's given the Quran because poetry was what was popping in the Arabian hood. Unbelievable. Oh, I forgot to talk about the laughing about those Afghan girls. How many times do I have to explain this? I've explained it many times. It's basically this idea of how girls' tears are used as a weapon of American imperialism. Women's tears, you know, whether it's the Gulf War, whether it's the invasion of Afghanistan, the invasion of Iraq, any of these countries like Syria that they are trying to bomb or invade, they bring out the girls crying about, oh, you know, I want to go to school. Oh, they're oppressing me. Please, America, please bomb my country, please. Please, America, I want you to invade with your soldiers. Please replace this regime. Oh, I want you to turn my country into rubble. Can you do that, American soldiers? NATO, please, NATO, I want my country to burn, to become a crater. Can you please turn my country into a crater? Oh. So yeah, I'm going to mock it. I'm going to continue to mock it. These and people like the people who are so much more accomplished intellectually and Islamically, like Ulema, Suhaib Webb, and Sajid Lippam and Jahil North. They're so much more accomplished than me intellectually. And they want to criticize me for mocking and trying to break the, what's the word for it? Break the spell. I'm trying to break the spell, like, because this is, it's a psyop. It's like emotional manipulation of people. People see the Afghan girls crying and the Iraqi girls crying and the Syrian girls crying, and they want to support war. They want to support sanctions. They want to support what? Turning the country into a crater, basically, for regime change or whatever other humanitarian reason. It's humanitarian. We're just bombing them. We're just invading them for humanitarian reasons. We got to save those young girls. The girls are crying. We have to save them. So that material is propaganda. It's propaganda meant to increase support for war and killing of Muslims. So someone who criticizes me for that, what is the implication of that? It means you're either too stupid to understand how propaganda works, you moron. You're too stupid to understand how this psyop works, you worthless idiot, ahmaq, himar. Or number two, you do understand it and you're in favor of that kind of propaganda being disseminated to the public. Okay, so which one is it? You fool. You want to mock me and you want to criticize me for that? Okay, you're finished. Let me just get Muhammad Hijab mindset here. You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. So I can't do it as good as him. But yeah, you're done. You're done. You've completely discredited yourself. This like joke of a response was almost more shameful than your actual performance in the confrontation at that masjid. So you're just washed up, and good riddance. Good riddance. Be careful how you talk about other people, and you talk about people being in the recycle bin or the dust bin. Like that's what you were saying about imams from overseas, imams who have an accent, imams who are not with it like you, and talk about the Quran as being, or the Quran was sent to the Prophet ﷺ because poetry was popping in the hood, and it's not there are companions, there are homeboys. The Sahaba are homeboys. People don't talk. Imams don't talk about that. They're not relevant like you. They don't do. You had khutbahs actually that were about TV shows. Like your khutbah was just dedicated to a TV show. That's like your history. Like the record of you is so extensive that we can't even cover it in 6 hours of streaming. Yeah, you need to think of a different strategy. Like you need to think of a different strategy for how to deal with this bubble popping. As I mentioned, the compassionate imam bubble is popping. It's on its way out, inshallah. And we're celebrating it being on its way out because so much misguidance has been caused. When you look at the fruits of Suhaib Webb's dawah, the fruits in the original video, that's what I said, right? Let's look at the fruits of Imam Suhaib's dawah. People like Noor Tahouri, go to her Instagram. You can't even say that she's a Muslim. Go to Lupe Fiasco. Clearly, he's an open kafir. Go to Blair Imani, like an open kafir. These are the fruits of his dawah. These are the people that he, was appealing to with his style. Look at what has come from that. Look at what the results are. That's what he has done for countless others that are not famous influencers. Like he has taken them on this trajectory. Hey, brother Daniel, I'm worried about you because of the way you're exposing these liberal, compassionate imams. They might plan to attack you to get you out of the way. It's okay. They can do whatever they want. I will continue to speak so long as Allah wills. So if tomorrow I'm not around, then that's all that Allah had willed for me to do. But alhamdulillah, this kind of critique does not rest on me. Like if I'm not saying it, someone else will say it. Allah will make sure that his deen is preserved, that the deen is preserved. It's not dependent on one person. So